Hello Pokemon fans, I'm Professor K, back again with yet another deck profile video. Seems like there's quite a bit of TCG stuff going on here, and this time we're going to be going a completely different route from the Flareon deck, and that is going to be Primal Groudon. This is a deck that also saw some success at Florida Regionals. It's a very new deck, still being worked upon by a lot of people, but I managed to put together a list that I'm pretty happy with right now. I've tested it a lot of games and it's only lost a few. So I'm going to go ahead and profile to you guys and see what you guys think and let you take it from there with your own imaginations. So we're going to start off here with 4 Landorus. This is the Shout of Power Landorus. 20 damage for 1 fighting energy, and attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. You can see where this is going. You're going to want to get fighting energy in the discard pile, and you're going to want to use Shout of Power to start powering up a Groudon right away. And you're going to want to open with him too, so we've got 4 copies. This is your most prevalent Pokemon in the entire deck. So you've got a much higher chance of starting with this Landorus than any other Pokemon, and there's not a whole lot, as you'll see. So from there we're going to go on and take a look at the main attacker in this deck. This is the guy that's going to come in late game and sweep everything for you, and that's going to be Primal Groudon. We're going to start off here and take a look at Groudon EX. You're never going to want to use any of these attacks because really they're just awful. For 2 energy, a fighting and a colorless, you can use Rip Claw, flip a coin of heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. I've done it exactly once, and it pretty much cost me the game. So I don't recommend doing that. And also Massive Rend, 3 fighting energy and a colorless, basically 4 fighting energy, 130 damage. It could hit for a lot, but it's just not worth it in my opinion. You're going to want to use Primal Groudon for everything. So you can't get there though without Groudon EX. So we got 3 of those. We also have 3 copies of Primal Groudon EX. This is your big bad heavy hitter. This is the Pokemon that has the Omega Barrier ability, well, ancient trait. That is, whenever your opponent plays a trainer card, excluding Pokemon tools and stadium cards, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So that means no Lysander, no hammers, no escape rope if he's in the active position, no anything. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. No head ringers if you're primal, nothing. It's just really, really good. And you can just let him sit on the bench and power him up, and then when he's ready, come in and just wreck stuff. With Gaia Volcano. 3 fighting energy, 1 colorless, 100 damage, and if there's a stadium card in play, it does 100 more damage, and you discard that stadium card. This thing just comes in and just runs over everything. And like I said, it's seen some success. I feel like it could use a little bit more work, but this list will give you a good starting point and at least win you some games, in my opinion. I know it's done so for me, so we'll see what you guys think. We've got 1 Hawlucha just because, I don't know, I feel like the deck needs some kind of heavy hitter for EXs in the meantime while you're powering up Primal Groudon, so that way you don't lose all your Landorus, and it's something with free retreat that you can promote if you're still looking to get cards that you need, hopefully looking to top deck something. So free retreat, flying press, 60 damage, 4 fighting energy. If your opponent's active Pokemon is not a Pokemon EX, it does nothing, so it's got to be an EX to start hitting, but I feel like it has a place in the deck. So the final set of Pokemon we're going to take a look here might seem a little bit strange, but you'll see the strategy once we take a closer look at the deck. So we've got 2 copies of Surskit. Surskit? What the heck is Surskit doing in a fighting deck? Well, this Pokemon here has 50 HP, and it does have a colorless attack Stampede, which is why you want to use it over the Plasma Blast version. But if you got to use Stampede, then there's just something not right with your hand. You're just having a bad game. That's all there is to that. So we got the 2 Surskit in preparation for Masquerain. Now this little guy right here, this 80 HP Pokemon, has a horrible attack, Bug Bite, 60 damage for 3. You're not going to want to power that up. You're really not. This guy's just going to sit on your bench and use Tool Reversal. As often as you like during your turn before your attack, you may put a Pokemon Tool card attached to one of your Pokemon into your hand. So that allows you to manipulate every tool card on your Pokemon. So if you get Head Ringered, you can pick up a Head Ringer and throw it right back in your opponent's discard pile. Not bad. You can take a Spirit Link off of Primal Groudon once he's in Primal form. and put something else on there. Not bad. I kind of like it. So that's why I think this has a place in the deck, and actually I believe a deck in Florida Regionals ran Masquerain, and it was very, very smart. I don't remember who it was. I'd give the guy credit, but I don't remember. So this is kind of my take on it. Our supporter line is going to be 4 Professor Juniper, obviously. I mean, why not? Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Best draw supporter in the game. Can't ignore it. Can't have a deck like this without 4 of them. Some decks you might run a little bit less, but this one, you're going to need 4. We also have 3 copies of N. I originally started off with 4 copies of N, and I actually dropped it down to 3 in a way to kind of make room for a 4th Karina, which you'll see here in a second, obviously. I feel like 3 is enough, and you'd rather, you know, use Professor Juniper most of the time anyways to really burn through the deck and get through your resources. So we got the 3 copies of N right there. We also have 4 copies, as I said, of Karina. Search your deck for a fighting Pokemon and an item card, reveal them, put them into your hand. So this is going to be the way that you're going to get a quick Primal Groudon. Put a Groudon on the bench, next turn play a Karina, get that Spirit Link, get that Primal Groudon, boom. Now it's untouchable on the bench. No Lysanders, no nothing. The only way it's going to come in the active position is if you put it there. So Karina, powerful, powerful card in this deck. Definitely worth running 4 of them. Even though most of the lists that I've seen call for 3, I like 4 a whole lot more. Again, it's a matter of preference. You can play the deck as you like, but this is just my opinion. We also have 2 copies of Lysander. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with one of his or her active Pokemon. You guys know what Lysander does by now. 2 copies of it lets you get something off the bench that shouldn't be there, bring it up, Primal Groudon, let it wreck stuff. Especially if there's EX on the bench. You'd rather take those 2 prizes all day long. So, here we go. Last supporter card in the deck is Lysander's Trump card. This, I think, could possibly be switched for something else, because I've never run into a situation where I've decked out with this just yet. I guess it's possible. It's alright to get back resources with, but 1 copy of Lysander's Trump card never hurts, and it lets you have some kind of defense against Flareon and Night March as well. Each player shuffles his or her hand, or his or her discard pile into his or her deck, except for Trump card if it's in the discard pile. So 1 copy of Trump card does the job in most cases. Alright, next we're going to take a look at 3 copies of Verseeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Lets you have multiple copies of all of these different supporters, and really helps the consistency of the deck. Verseeker belongs in every single deck, minimum 3 copies in my opinion. Alright, we also have 2 copies of Ultra Ball to get out your Surskit and your Masquerain. Obviously they're not searchable through Karina, you can draw into them, or you can Karina for an Ultra Ball and get them that way. You're going to want to set them up fairly quickly. They're not, you know, a dire emergency that you have to set them up by turn 2 all the time, but I would say by turn 3 or 4 you should have a Masquerain set up and start putting the strategy into motion. Also, we've got 2 copies of Groudon Spirit Link. Why so few copies of Groudon Spirit Link when there's 3 Groudon and 3 Primal Groudon? Well, obviously with Masquerain, you only need to have 1 really, because you can just keep picking them up and putting them back down. And Karina searches them out very quickly, and I don't really recall a time where I've had issues with 2 Spirit Links. So, 2 Groudon Spirit Links right here. And they do the job, like I said. Okay, and we also have 2 copies of Floatstone. Since we can manipulate the tool cards, this basically gives everything free retreat, because we can just keep picking them up and putting back down on whatever we want. So 2 copies of Floatstone works really well in lieu of switching cards, just because, well, you don't have to discard them, you can just keep moving stuff around. And anything that lands on a Primal Groudon, as long as it's there, is untouchable from Startling Megaphone. Everybody else, yeah, it's still susceptible, but if it's on Primal Groudon, what can they do? They can't get it off of there, there's nothing they can do. We also run 1 copy of Focus Sash. The reason for Focus Sash is to keep alive our Hawlucha from a 1-hit knockout, to keep possibly a Landorus alive from a 1-hit knockout, but mainly it's to keep Primal Groudon alive if you're facing Virizion Genesect. It's not going to happen a lot. Virizion Genesect is kind of falling off a little bit, but I have a feeling it will come back. In the meantime, it's there just in case. 1 copy of Focus Sash just to mess around with if you should need it. If not, well, it's good discard fodder. We also have a copy of Hard Charm. This card is just indisposable. I'm sorry, but this is just really good. This actually saved me in one of my matchups from getting knocked out by 10 HP on my Primal Groudon, and yeah, it's just really good. So, Hard Charm, any damage done to this Pokemon this card is attached to is reduced by 20, even if it's on the bench or bench damage. So if Landorus hits something on the bench that has a hard charm, it does 10 instead of 30. Really good, and helps preserve any of your Pokemon that you just want to keep on the board that would normally get knocked out by damage. We got one copy of Professor's Letter just to get out our Fighting Energy should we need it. We can Karina for it, and you always can use Fighting Energy, obviously. In this deck especially, since it's so dependent on having a lot of energy on Primal Groudon. We also have one copy of Scramble Switch. Nothing is going to surprise your opponent more than if you have a Primal Groudon on the bench with no energy on it, a Primal Groudon in the active position that's about to be knocked out, and all of a sudden you throw down one of these babies. Scramble Switch. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, and you may move as many energy attached to your old active Pokemon to the new one as you like. So now all of a sudden you've got a Primal Groudon on the bench with all kinds of damage on it that your opponent can't touch. No Lysanders. The only way they can do it is if they can do bench damage with their Pokemon. So Scramble Switch is a good surprise card that can turn the game for you, and it did for me several times, because you can use your own trainer cards on Primal Groudon. It's just your opponent that can't. So bear that in mind as well. Now we're going to go through all the Stadium cards in this deck. Primal Groudon gets most of its strength from Stadium cards in play, so it only makes sense that you're going to want to play a bunch of Stadium cards. What better Stadium card to play in this deck than Scorched Earth? Scorched Earth has a lot of synergy with Landorus. You're going to discard a Fighting Energy, draw 2 cards. Boom, draw support. Also, by throwing away that Fighting Energy, now you can bring it back with Shadow Power and attach it to your Landorus. So it works really well, and not to mention, if it's in play and you got Primal Groudon in play, boom, there's an extra 100 damage and you can toss it out in hopes of getting another Stadium card in play fast. We also have 2 copies of Silent Lab. This is another counter to Virizion Genesect by shutting off their abilities. Really good. It's also a counter to a lot of things actually. Shuts down Safeguard, it shuts down just a lot of stuff. It even shuts down your Hawlucha, as a matter of fact. Should you happen to hit for weakness on something, if it's got a fighting weakness, well, guess what? Now you're hitting for weakness because the ability shut down. So 2 copies of Silent Lab, just in case for those pesky matchups. Also, you got 1 copy of Fighting Stadium because let's face it, if we can hit for 20 more damage with Landorus or Hawlucha on a Pokemon EX, it's just too good. I mean, it needs to happen. It needs to be there. Sometimes you have to have a Fighting Stadium to really get that pressure on your opponent. You don't really need it for Primal Groudon to do its damage, but you never know. You might come up 20 short on another Primal, maybe Kyogre or something like that, or another Primal Groudon. It's good to have just 1 copy of there, just in case. Alright, also we have, let's count them out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 basic Fighting Energy, and we have 4 Strong Energy. There's the energy count, 12 energy. You're going to want to have the 4 strong, obviously, because you can only run 4, and you've got 8 basic for everything else. It's a very energy-dependent deck, but it's quicker than you think, especially with this Landorus with Shadow Power. Once you have it powered up, it just steamrolls through everything, and if you can get more than 1 set up, or even set up another one while this one's taking damage while you're rolling through stuff, it's just too good. It really is. It's a very powerful deck. It's very resilient, has a lot of comeback potential, and it's hard to deal with. It really is with most of the decks in the format today. So here's the deck. Do with it what you will. Make it your own. Take this, run the list as is, whatever you want to do. That's what I'm here for, just to give you guys different ideas of how to play the decks. Like I said, I love it. I feel like it's powerful, has a lot of potential in today's metagame, and I feel like it'll be a force to be reckoned with for quite a while, actually. For quite a while. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more TCG content. Here in the future, we're going to try to focus more on playing the game, just in the waiting for all the new stuff that'll be coming out and things like that. So in the meantime, look forward to that. We'll see you guys next time. I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries.